Here we are again, back at the Main Street Randyland YouTube channel. Hooray! More stories about great stuff. Did you press the subscribe button? I bet you did it already, didn't you? You're sick of me hearing saying it, right? You don't even want to hear it again. Press the subscribe button and you don't have to hear it. Okay, I know you did it. I'll trust you. Well, today's story, somebody happened to notice this funny machine sitting on my counter. And they're like, you know, what is that? Where did you get that? Well, everything here has a story. Everything has a memory because it's all connected to me, which is why it's about Randyland, because the Randy had his life in the amusement business. And I was the little kid who was playing the games, and I had the dreams and aspirations of wanting to be in the amusement business. That's all I wanted to do. I could have done many varied things in my life, had many opportunities. I wanted to be in the amusement business, and I have so fulfilled that prophecy. But once I found Fascination, arcades no longer played a big part in my life because I was busy playing the Fascination game. And I found that in 1974, so I was 13 years old on the boardwalk in Seaside. No longer did I have time for skee ball and pinball and pokerino and bingerino and all those great games in the arcade. Now it was solely Fascination. I played exclusively the first year in '74. That was the first year that they opened in Seaside at Lucky's Fascination at Webster Avenue. By the second year, 1975, I was playing 12 hours a day, every day of the summer. And I was getting better and better and better. You do anything 12 hours a day, every day of the summer, you're very good at it. The Fascination, as we've talked about in previous videos, is a game of skill. It's in form of electronic bingo and lights, like Connect 4, but it's Connect 5. You're trying to get your line to light up before anyone else. So if you have one rotten kid sitting there 12 hours a day winning all the games, it's discouraging for the other players because they come in and they see that same kid sitting there winning all the games and they can't win. So they don't want to play against me because they cannot equal my skill level. Eventually, the owners realized this was affecting their business. So they had to do something about it. And to do something about it meant to get rid of me. So they made up different stories and different restrictions that they would find on me and they would pick on me with, and it didn't apply to anybody else, and they kind of made it uncomfortable to play, but I still played and I still enjoyed playing until eventually they had to get rid of me. So they made up a lie, said I was discourteous to one of their employees, and I was banished from Fascination. Me and my whole family were thrown out. Well, that's a long story that is interesting in itself, and there's been books written about it, and comic books too. But it is the lead-in to the story about the machine, the funny-looking machine on my counter. Because it came because I was thrown out of Fascination. Well, how could that be? Because once you're thrown out of Fascination, what do? There was only one Fascination to play in Seaside, and we had a house in Lavalette, which was near Seaside. Now, while we did play Fascination in other amusement areas, we were on the boardwalk in Seaside every day. So now it's back to the arcades. And the closest thing to playing Fascination was playing bingerino in the Carousel Arcade in Seaside Heights. They had pokerino, they had 21, they had bingerino. Pokerino, you rolled 6 balls down, they sat in the holes, they lit the cards, you made a poker hand. I played that when I was real little. It wasn't exactly intriguing for me. I graduated into 21, where you rolled 1 ball, would go through a numbered hole from 1 to 11. It would advance the numbers. You're trying to get 21 exactly or below 21 in 5 rolls. If you go over 21, you lose. A little more interesting for the intellectual. But by far, the most popular of the roll downs was bingerino. You had 3 bingo cards. When you rolled the balls, they landed into the holes to light numbers on the cards. Every game, the cards alternated. It started with the first card as the main, which you got every game. The next game, you would get the main and a second card. The next game, the main, and a second card on the other side. It would alternate back and forth through a round of 10 cycles. On the 10th cycle, you got all 3 cards. So I was reduced to playing Bingarino. And of course, I was very good at Bingarino. And I earned lots and lots and lots of tickets. Tickets and tickets and tickets for prizes. But there was nothing I wanted. I wasn't playing the game because I wanted the toaster. I was playing the game because I like to play the game. Most people who play Fascination are playing the game because they like to play the game also. I'm the extreme level because I played a lot and I had tons of tickets. So the owner who got to know us, he says, what are you going to do with all those tickets? I told him there was really nothing I wanted. He says, well, you can get me something. What would I like? So at that time I was aspiring little Randy, looking to the future, being in the arcade business. And I used to have my Wico catalog. I used to call it Wico, W-I-C-O, Wico. People call it Wico. Wico, potato, tomato, whatever you want to call it. It was the catalog for amusement parts replacements for the industry. And in the book was a coin counting machine that I had seen arcades on the boardwalk had a coin counting machine because they were dealing with lots and lots and lots of coins. So young Randy said, I'd like to buy one of those coin counting machines, but they were a lot of money. It was, at that time, I think it was listed for about $650. So it was a lot of money. So I says to the arcade owner, can you get me a coin counting machine? Yeah. He says, the one in particular? So I brought in my Wico catalog. I showed it to him. He says, all right. He says he can order that for me. He'll get that for me, and I can pay him with tickets. Great. How many tickets is it going to be? He said, we'll work it out. We'll figure it out. He wasn't sure. See, this is a question operators back then particularly did not want to answer because they never want to expose the true value of their points. There's a perception in the value of your tickets. The perception being, of course, a higher value than it is costing the operator. So you think you're getting a better return on your investment by playing the games. Back then, there weren't a lot of Walmarts. I don't even think they existed if they first started. So there were smaller stores. You had your EJ Corvettes and your Two Guys from Harrison. There were stores, Kmart's, like old Kresge's Foundation, Macy's, of course. But those stores were a little higher. They weren't really dealing wholesale to the public. So there were wholesalers that dealt with arcade businesses where they would buy general appliances, pot sets, trinkets, toys. They would put them on their shelf and they would buy them for a little bit less money than it cost them, than it would cost you to buy the same item in the store. Maybe there was a markup of $2. So they would market accordingly to what they paid for it and make their ticket look like it was worth more, because if you looked up how much it would cost you to buy it, you got the price that you'd have to pay in the store, not the price that they bought it for. So we knew the item cost $650 plus tax. They used to tell you that their ticket was worth a penny a piece. Well, $650 would make that, what, 65,000 arcade points? I think that's the math, right? So I certainly had that. So I says, well, I need to know if I got enough tickets. You need to tell me. So he says, we'll do it for 50,000. That's great, because if it's a penny a piece, that means the machine is only $500. Good deal. So they ordered a machine. Of course, I'm playing all the more because now I'm excited. I'm going to get my coin counting machine. Coin counting machine never really came, as everything's got a twist to it. So we had a meeting in the back in the office, and he counted up my tickets, and then he handed my mom cash under the table so you could go buy your machine. So he didn't have to be bothered in the middle of it. So my mother was, happy to be handed the money. She wasn't sure what he's even doing, and she trusted him. She didn't count, the money. Well, when she got home later and counted the money, he didn't give the full money. He only gave her at that time, I think it was about $450. Instead of the $650 that it was going to cost to buy the machine, he gave her $450. So my mom was really taken back by that, really upset by it, and wasn't going to make problems because we liked playing the arcade, but we felt cheated. So my parents, of course, had to make up the difference to pay to get me my coin counting machine. And of course I got it, and I was happy with it, and I would play with all my coins, and it didn't separate coins, but it would count the denomination of coins, and of course I would play with all my coins and be happy, because I would dream that someday I would be in the arcade business, and I would need that machine to count my coins. Well, it's sitting on my counter, because here we are 50 years later, and I do use it. And it's a Keene, K-E-E-N-E, coin handling division. And it's a really neat machine. He's gotten older in his day. He was all bright and shiny when I got him 50 years ago. But you put your coins in the top, your hopper disc will spin around in circles, and it will centrifugal force send the coins out to the outside, which will then come through this raceway. When it comes through the raceway, the rubber wheel will spin and force the coins through this star. Now this star will actually turn this meter, if we can do it by hand. See, it goes to 1, goes to 2. It will turn the meter and thusly count the coins, and then you reset your meter this way. Now this also has the ability of setting it to predetermined amounts that are preset in the machine for the purpose of rolling them in coin papers that you got from your bank. There's two methods of actually rolling coins. One is a fully automatic machine, which uses paper like on a big adding machine roll, and it'll spin the paper around and fold the ends in. That's the kind you see where you can see the end of the coin that's kind of rolled in. That's not what this does. This is for the pre-folded paper that you have to fold like that. You shove it up in the tube. You have to have the right size tube for that denomination of coin, and then you set it for the amount that goes into that tube, and then when you start it like that, it'll shoot that many coins in there and stop, and then you take it down and you fold over the ends and you go to the next coin. I have some of the automatic coin wrapping machines, but they're far, far bigger, and for my purposes here it's unnecessary. So you got to set your thickness and your width of the coin. Right here, this slides, you loosen your thumbnail, and you slide this to mark up according to the graduated points as far as what it is. Now, it was set for quarters, so I'm putting it back. The thickness here is graduated, but they were never 100% right. So you got to know your machine, and it's just enough to lift this here. Can you see on this side? This part here rises as you turn this, so you want to make it just the right height to allow your thickness of coin to pass underneath. That's how you restrict it from having thicker coins go through. So then when you turn it on, I put it on full count, and you throw some coins in, they'll just come down through the tube and they will count them first. We have a bunch of quarters here, so let's throw them up top and see how many quarters we actually have. And in no time at all, we have 97 quarters. Now, it would take me quite a long time to count to 97 quarters. So this is good for counting your coins, but it doesn't sort them. You want to have them sorted before then. So if I was doing quarter rolls, I would want to set this for 40, because that's how many's in a quarter roll, and I do a pre-test. Just trying to pre-test it to 40. Okay, now, reset my dial. Now it's set for 40, and I would have my paper roll in there, push the button, and we're at 40 on the spot. The solenoid lifts the wheel to stop the motion. So we know we have another 40. And it stops at 80 because it's preset for 40s, because that's how many goes into a quarter roll. And if I get rid of the rest of them, we're back to 97, because that's what we had to begin with. Now you can also count tokens, but you got to adjust it a little bit. Now the token's about the same thickness as a quarter, but over here it's definitely a little wider than a quarter, so I have to make a little determination. I'm not sure that's exactly right because it doesn't have a graduation for this size token, but we'll find out. No, it looks like, there it goes. Let's find out. Yep, looks like a good. All right, let's see how many tokens we got. When it stops, I push this lever here, and that'll restart for the next group. So we have 145 tokens. Oh, we have another one here. I didn't push it through, 146. Interestingly enough, this machine is very handy and it's portable, and you can fold it up. These funnels come out, and this is a size funnel for $50. I'm using that because if I ever wanted to count tokens, they're bigger than quarters, it wouldn't go through a quarter size funnel. And since I'm not using the paper rolls anyway, I just need something to fit in the hole. But the orange ones would be for quarters, the blue ones for nickels, the red ones for pennies, and the green ones would be for dimes. So this is your Keen coin counting machine that came because I played Bingarino. Interestingly enough, somebody gave me a similar machine. It was actually just delivered 2 days ago. This is a Clop. Now the Clop is different type of handling, similar situation, smaller hopper, smaller machine, works the same way with a very small wheel. This is not going to work. This was given to me in this condition. It is very, very dirty. It's going to have to be cleaned up before I even attempt to start it. But it has your same type of gauge here for the amount of coins that you want to put in for a certain cycle. You have your same resettable coin counter. But again, a Clop or a Keen does not sort coins. So in an instance, like I'm running with my Fascination game, where my Fascination machines will run on either quarters or tokens, I have a special apparatus that will accept either. The machine will know the difference, but it doesn't sort them. They go into one giant catch area that is both quarters and tokens. So we have what they call a sorting machine for that, and we'll take my quarters and tokens over here. This is called a scan coin. The scan coin works much differently than the Clops and the Keens back in the day. This is actually done through sensors. This sensor bar here actually can tell you what kind of coin it is just by it rolling past. It's very, very interesting technology. I'm not really a big fan of it because you're trusting a lot into that. They work pretty well, but they also jam up. Tells the whole story. The holes are precision cut, just larger than the size of the coin. Ingenious. So if I grab a quarter, the wheel will turn the quarter past the dime, past the penny, past the nickel. When it gets up here, it falls in the hole because it's a quarter. Gone. If it was a token, it would be bigger. It would make its way up here and it would go through that hole. Very simple sorting method. Goes through different channels and down to the pan. In the back, you have a lot of sorting mechanisms. But as you go back and you put the machine on, press the start button, first this hopper will run, then that hopper will run. And we don't have the cover on it, so we hope we don't make a mess here, but we'll just throw some quarters into it. And they'll come up, they'll roll down the scanner. As they pass here, the computer will count them digitally. It knows what it is. Now, this machine is not set to count tokens. It will sort them, but it won't count them. Because that size coin has no monetary value, and this counts in monetary value rather than coins. So in the end, all my tokens come out in one bin, and all my quarters come out in another bin. And this machine will work with pennies, nickels, dimes, quarters, whatever you throw in there. Now, I just mixed up all my quarters and all my tokens. Let's clear the amount, and we'll hit start. much slower counting method than the other machines. We have $24.25 worth of quarters. All my quarters and all my tokens neatly sorted out again. Certainly makes it a lot easier for me. In today's world with computer technology, most casinos or arcades that are going to count coins have scales, digital scales. They know the weight of the coin, and it can count just by laying this on there. It can tell you in a second how many coins are there. But it's assuming, of course, that all the coins are the same and they're, you know, in there properly. So it's not a tried and true method either, because you could have something, the wrong coin in there, and it's weighing it as if it was a quarter or a token or whatever you're setting it for. These machines are really interesting. Now, I happen to have quite a few of these. Why? Well, it goes back to Fascination again. It seems the whole world goes back to Fascination, because Fascination is a manually collected game. That's the way it was designed. I was the first one to automate Fascination by putting coin slots on them, and I operated them on tokens when I started that in Seaside Heights. Well, when I came down here and I used these tables had a history from Wildwood, and they had been coin operated by the prior owner in his attempt of making an emulation of the coin system that I had, but it didn't work well, and the owners after him ripped it out, pulled it out. So I had to come up with a new system. So I was trying to figure, how can we do this? Well, one of the systems I was considering doing, instead of having an individual coin insertion mechanism on each machine that could differentiate the type of coin, credit machines that could communicate with it, these two wood rails that go by with the glass were my inspiration for what I might have done when I had designed my coin system. And I almost did this. That's why I bought these coin sorting machines. I sit here on the side, and as I look down, I see that as train tracks. That machine will fit quite nicely between the tracks, and I could have had casters that rode the rails. So I could have had that machine on an automatic travel system that would go back and forth on the rails in front of the tables. Now what it would do is, when somebody sat down and they rolled the ball without having paid for the game, the machine would automatically come over to the table, and just like when you go through the toll plaza at the Parkway and you throw your money into it, you would toss your money into the bin. The machine would count it, sort it, know it, communicate with the table, put additional credits on there for how much you threw into the machine, and then move on down to whoever else had to pay for the game. And I figured there'd have to be two on a section that could move independently. Now, they wouldn't be able to pass each other, but this one could come down this far, the other one could come down and meet it if it was necessary, and it could go, and up on the deck with all the tables there, I'd probably have to have 4 units going back and forth. So I probably purchased about 50 of those machines, like I needed 50 of them. But if I was going to go that route and I was going to use 6 or 8 of them, I'd have to have spares, and I'm not going to be able to match them some year, 20, 30 years down the line when they don't make them anymore. So I bought 50 of them, and they're sitting in boxes piled up to the sky in one of my storage areas, which, you know, and I'm using one because I didn't end up doing it that way at all. So I use it to sort the coins. This turned out to be much better anyway. Less problems, because it would go over and Grandma wouldn't have her coins and she'd throw them and miss the thing, just like in the Parkway. And then the communications would have to know that they stopped at the right table. They'd have to communicate wirelessly with the machines. It became more complicated. So I figured, you know what? They already had a hole in the machine from when they tried their token apparatus. So I got the special units, connected them in, did the interfaces, and made it that way, and I used the counting machine just to sort my coins. So another story, everything has a story, because when you have so much stuff and you spend your life accumulating it, there's always a reason that you got it, how you got it, and how it connects to it. So today you had the story of my Keen counter, my Klopp counter, and of course my AccuScans, which are piled up in the corner, and only one of them gets to be dusty over there because I get to use it, and it hasn't broken yet. So I hope you enjoyed the stories. Another fun-filled episode from the Main Street Randyland YouTube channel. Hooray! Did you subscribe? Did you remember? All right, we'll trust you. You got it, subscribe. We'll see you next time with more great stuff from the wonderful world of Randy. Bye, guys.